Hey, I'm Decathlon Gamer. Welcome back to F1 Manager 24. It's episode number 2. Please take a second, if you will, drop below, especially if you enjoyed episode number 1 of this new Let's Play and the all-female challenge. Take a second, click that like button, help with a comment regarding the algorithm, as I do have a smaller channel and I do intend on making a full Let's Play for the entirety of the year. Of course, at this point, none of us know the fate of F1 Manager. Is this the final edition, or are we still just getting started? Because for anyone who is in the know, Frontier Development initially signed a 3-year licensing agreement, Liberty Media, with Formula One. And so this is that third year of that licensing agreement. After a less than stellar year number 2 in the cycle, they lost considerable money in year 2. Most of the audience considered there to be a lack of general development in the game from year 1 to year 2, noting that they felt year 1 was a little bare bones and that year 2 didn't add enough. Now, in my opinion, year 3 has added a significant amount. I didn't think that year 2 was that bare bones either. I really enjoyed the game, and I'm really looking forward to a full year and a full Let's Play of F1 Manager 24. That is, of course, if we even make it to Season 2 of this Let's Play, as we are facing dire financial consequences for my choices, both in difficulty level and in drivers. The drivers gave me an additional about 20 million in expenses. But that 20 million is only the half of our issues, as our projected balance for the season is negative 83 million. Negative, as in we're going to be in debt by 83 million, as in we're going to be bankrupt and out of a job by the end of season 1 in theory. Now, here's a couple things. Now, yes, there's that 20 million, and oh man, that 20 million makes things a hell of a lot harder. However, the projected balance, the staff, the facilities, and car development. So car development is an expense that we put in. I've spent 1 million, but if things are dire enough, we are going to have to halt development. We are going to become the slowest team on the grid, and it's going to get complicated trying to keep the job. But finances are priority number 1, and we cannot go $83 million in the red this year. We have to find a way to finish the year with some money. Wish me luck. Okay, car development, frozen. Our one upgrade to the underfloor, that's going to be it. And you better believe we're going to use up the existing parts that we have, because we cannot afford to replace parts. Let me tell you. Other, whatever that may be, is the bulk of the expenses, 67 million of them. Whatever other may be, I'm really hoping to freeze other. If I could put a big stop to that, we can free up about 80 million. And oh look, that's getting us kind of close. Speaking of getting kind of close, here is our monthly balance. This is a key pivotal point for whether we can survive the early gameplay and get the ball rolling, make a little money. For one thing, we have some facility upgrades, some of which are already done, others that are still in the process and not yet complete, and could be a key component to making this work, making this happen. All right, back to this for a moment though. Our incoming at the moment, 4.2 million monthly. Outgoing, 5.36. So 1,150,000 monthly losses. Now at that rate, we've got 5 months till we're broke. We have that sponsor plan, and in that sponsor plan, we are set to make some money. It's only going to pay out a chunk at a time, but we already saw over that 6-week stretch that we were supposed to, working on it. It's still happening, right? So far we've earned 109K, but we saw that we were set to make 1.7 million. It was a 6-week stretch, 6-week period. That's a month and a half. right? So if we can make 1.7 million in a month and a half, and then let's say we replicate that 1.7 million the following month and a half, we're talking 3.5 million, 3.4. And if we're losing 1.15 monthly, that's 3.45, right? We can almost break even on the engagement money. Almost. Just shy. There are rewards for finishing. We're not doing well in that department, but I did make 200K last race for finishing 21st. If I can get both drivers above 21st, we can turn that into 400K per race. Otherwise, even if both racers DNF finish at the back of the grid, I could still earn a minimum of 200K per race. That combined can offset the losses. Herein lies the problem. There are other expenses that come along. We know this. We've identified this. First thing, I've already started to save a little bit of money, cut down on the engineering team, cut down on the scouting team. We're not going to be doing other upgrades, so I've shut down the scouting team. I can shut down the engineering team, save 50K a month. That's a start. Then there's team marketability, which impacts the sponsorship. It impacts our effect in that engagement category. Our drivers, not that marketable. We're talking of a score out of 1,000, so this is not out of a 100. It looks like each of them could potentially be hundreds in terms of marketability. But the facility bonuses, we could start to see some greater benefit from there. Bring this score to maybe 200 plus, get a little more money out of it. But we are absolutely 100% playing with fire, and we cannot afford to have crashes. And, oh wait, race number 1 saw the front wing, a side pod, and suspension. 3 components destroyed in Emma Beach's first wreck. One of the most important things for us right now is making components last, as we really cannot afford to manufacture more. This is going to be crazy close on whether we can make this without going into debt. This is the new race targets screen as you go to enter a race, but it's broken up driver by driver, not for the team. So it's not about getting one driver to 21st or above, which is easy enough when you have 2 drivers and one of them has to finish 21st or above. If I were to pick 21st for both drivers, I'm guaranteed the 203,000. And then we have a decent chance. All it takes is one car to DNF behind us, and we double that. We turn that into 400,000. Now, you could take a risk on an 18th or higher and say both drivers get there. Say we finish 17th and 18th and we make 100K. And yes, that is a lot more. But it's not realistic. Now, the 20th is absolutely something a little more possible, but not easy. So I'm going to take the safe bet, the guaranteed 200K every race. And if we can get one car behind us, both of our drivers, then we can turn that into 400K each race. And that, right now, is the only way to pay for new components.
We're here in Jeddah, where the tension is boiling as we head into the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. We're on the shores of the Red Sea in the shade of Jeddah's skyscrapers. This might be a dream setting, but as we know, in Formula One, not all dreams come true.
It's Ferrari who are currently ahead in the constructors' standings. And as the final round begins, what a season it's been.
It's shaping up to be a great weekend, so don't go anywhere.
A little insult to injury for us. So Rivas, her engine, ERS, that's the battery pack, and the gearbox, 88, 93, 89%. That's wear and tear from practice, qualifying, and a race weekend. For Beach, remember, she crashed out at the midway point of the race. But she's down to 81, 85, 81, which means, in theory, she took about a 10% knock on each of those 3 components, at the time. And then, Rivas went on to wear her car down a little bit further. But that's disappointing. That's definitely not helping our situation, because right now the biggest key season 1 is finances. And to really find out how we're doing with this, we are going to implement the new component that the game has for us, which is the quick simulation. I'm going to go ahead and do 3 races today, simming 2 of them. As bad as our car is and our drivers, they're not so far off. Beach and Rivas both managing to qualify ahead of Joe and Gasly. So giving us a fighting chance for the race to come, at least to finish ahead of one driver. That's right now, that is going to be the goal for the next probably half a season anyway. So just like that, a few button clicks later, and Carlos Sainz has won the Jeddah circuit race for Saudi Arabia. Norris and Perez rounded out that podium, and Beach finishes 17th. Outstanding result. And we got exactly what we were hoping for with a Yuki Tsunoda DNF. And Rivas, who was 2 laps down all by her lonesome, ends up finishing where she needed to, so we get that 400k. So Sainz, with back-to-back victories to open up the season, puts the Ferrari out ahead. So far, only 11 drivers have managed to score points through the first 2 races. Beach is currently P19 in the standings. For those who don't score points, position still matters, and it's calculated on your highest finish of the year. So we, with Beach, now have that 17th recorded as her highest finish, which is better than what Bottas or Zhou Guanyu have done. Bad news is that there was a mistake on Beach's pit stop, costing her time putting the tires on. That's the second time we've seen a mistake there. Our pit crew is in pretty sad shape. I'm going to focus a lot more this season on minimizing mistakes than I will be on improving the time of our pit crew. I like to micromanage the pit crew development. The system from last year has been retained, and I love the system they developed last year for that one. But this is the big one that bothers me. Rivas changed a wing on her first stop. See, it's noted in here. I'm assuming that is a wing change. It's about 7.5 seconds to change the front wing. That's not good. That's a really bad sign, and that means we are already down our second wing. But I'm loving this part. 400k for this. Big help. And after just 2 races, both drivers have leveled up. Beach now an 80, Rivas 79. When you're strapped for cash, it's a bold move to spend money. But I'm going to do exactly that. Our tour center, which generates an income, an upgrade to that only takes a couple weeks and only costs 150,000. Now, I do not know, the purple being the upgrade, I do not know if it's increased to 75k for the weekly income, or if it's increased by 75k for the income. I think it's increased to. But even if that's the case, even if it's only going to increase the income by 25k, it still pays itself off in 6 months. And the first upgrade pays itself off. The first upgrade was about 125k. Pays itself off in just a couple of months, 2.5 months. So well worth it to do the tour center even at this stage. And when that's done, we might look to immediately go on to the next one to help offset the monthly cost issues we have. So that underfloor design is done. I'd love to get it on the car, but I'm not sure if I can afford to manufacture any new underfloors. $400,000 a pop. We're gonna have to sit on it for now. We have 4 of the first one done. Now obviously when we get down to say 3, I'm gonna have to spend the money, and realistically at some point I'm gonna have to spend the money. So I think I might as well make a couple. 800,000. Uh-oh.
It's wonderful to be back down under for the Australian Grand Prix. We're a stone's throw from the beach here at the Albert Park circuit. It might be party mood in the grandstands, but in the paddock, expectations and tensions are high. Well then, It's not long until we get started here, and we should be in for a tightly contested race. The calm composure of Sergio Perez amongst the hustle and bustle of the grid.
P3 is a decent starting position, and they should get a good haul of points if they play the race right.
So let's see what today has in store, shall we? Get ready for the Australian Grand Prix. And it's lights out, and away we go.
And we are racing. This is the one that I picked to do live here early on in the season. And is that contact, or what's going on with those four drivers? Did they have a lockup of some sort? Well, anyway, Riva started from 19th, though she's lost one position off the start of the grid. And actually, we just lost another. We're down to 20th and 21st with Gasly in last. I guess it was only one position. Beach gained one. She started from 22nd. Heck, now she's gained two. She's pulled ahead of Rivas. So good start from Beach. Poor start from Rivas. Each of them moving two positions. One in the direction we want, one not so much. As lap one here comes to an end here at Albert Park. Verstappen leads from Leclerc and Norris. And I've underfueled by one lap to make us a little bit lighter, make us a little bit faster on a general race pace as weight equals slowdown. And we've got a virtual safety car. There has been a crash. It's Leclerc dropping quickly down the order. Is he going to be a DNF? VSC usually means a car out of the race. He was running in P2, locks up, and goes into the wall. As we go racing again on lap 4 after Leclerc has been cleared out. There is a yellow. It's Magnussen. Magnussen has dropped to last place with a spin. Same place where Leclerc went out.
And the controls lost.
No,
and ultimately,
different spot.
Just unable to bring the car under control.
Definitely some different looks on accidents this year, and I believe as Beach makes an overtake on Zhou up to 17th, I believe that that was on the apex, so it was more of on the turn in, catching too much curb and losing the rear end, getting some oversteer and not being able to handle it. One of the reasons why Beach is going forward and Rivas is going backwards, though, is not that Rivas had a terrible start to the race. It's that I put her on the medium compound for running this race, and that has resulted in less pace off the line, less pace in these early laps, and going down pretty early on. But our fuel situation is already taken care of by lap 6, or just about anyway, as we're only just a little light on fuel now thanks to that virtual safety car, running less of a pace, putting less intensity into the engine, and being able to save fuel. Beach not able to hang on to the position as she was not in DRS range of Bottas, so Zhou uses DRS to get by. There's 4 DRS zones here, so you very much want to be close behind another car. But Beach made an absolute meal of that overtake and backed off. I was hoping they would have fixed that in this year's edition, but you see that way too often in this year's game. Somebody overtakes you, and you take a bad line and lose 2 seconds in the overtake. And so immediately Gasly comes up on us and overtakes us, this time not losing 2 seconds on that particular overtake, but taking a appropriate line and settling in just behind. But as we have gone on a couple of laps from here, we really do need to settle in. And Beach now 19th and Rivas 20th. Magnussen 8 seconds behind at least, and we've already secured that 400k for today. So not too worried about what happens from here, as I'm certainly not feeling like we're going to be competing for points. But a pretty poor run there from Beach to drop those couple of positions. And so I have already encountered one bug. I'm sure it's going to be fixed very quickly because it's not something that occurred last year, so I'm certain they'll be able to get it sorted out before too long. That bug being in between sessions making setup changes aren't saving. It's not making those changes. And so the generic AI setup only gets you around 60 to 70%, sometimes even in the 50s on your setup happiness, which creates bonuses for the drivers within the race. It makes them corner better, brake better. Basically, the happier they are with the car, the more they're able to extract out of it. So it makes perfect sense in translation on how that works. Rivas back and forth with Gasly, but they are behind that group ahead. And we are seeing various notifications. I know that an incident last race led to yellow, a yellow exclamation point where orange was a DNF, and it looks like Joe is encountering mechanical issues, but not the kind that takes you out of the race, but in danger. Pit window with a 2-stopper ahead of us today, where we're going to go soft, medium, soft for Rivas, getting the mediums out of the way and then going soft to the end. But of course she lost a lot from that. But hey, even then she's only 1 second behind Beach at this stage, and coming up on her pretty quick at this stage, because at 42% the softs just don't have a lot left in them. So Beach is recovering her position decently well at the moment. Rivas jumps Magnussen for 18th, and Beach is suddenly down to 20th, second and a half behind. So Rivas got a really good run there, gained 2 positions. Riding on board with Beach as she comes down to pit road for the first stop of the day here on lap 20. It's a good stop. It's a very good stop. A 2.582. That's the best stop we have had so far on the season, and is better than average by about 1/10 of a second. So very good one there. And we'll go aggressive for a little bit to get up to temperature. Have a good out lap. I'm seeing a lot of drivers right now are pitting around the same time we are, either 1 lap ahead, same lap as us, or 1 lap later. And I don't think too many cars started on the mediums. Bottas, Magnussen each did. Perez. Wow, I'm looking at kind of wildly different percentages of what's left. That's kind of good to see. There's a lot more variance on how hard they push, kind of what those outcomes are. But Rivas is now 1 lap away from her pit stop, currently in P17. Beach down to last place for the moment, 7.5 seconds behind. We are up to temperature. Definitely off the pace of the next car. Gasly is somebody we are supposed to be racing, so that's not putting us in a great position. Zhou is another one who we are supposed to be racing. They definitely went earlier on mediums. However, there's a good chance with us pitting that a little bit later and setting ourselves up to be able to go to softs at the end of the race. There's a good chance that while we'll be a little ways behind those two, they are likely going soft, medium, medium, or even a soft, medium, hard. And we'll have a chance to come back at them at the end of this race. Magnussen, already, there's your first example. Somebody opting to go to the hards, not the mediums, and we are already up close to him. I'm hoping we can stay tight and use his brand new, we're at 93%, keep it up with him, shouldn't be too hard. In fact, I should be looking to overtake and get into clean air. At this point, I think we have a little bit of a race advantage over Magnussen. Going up the inside. Oh, backing out of it again. Beach. She's decent at overtaking, and we just got lapped. We just got lapped already. Holy crap. Has Verstappen pit yet? Yes. Yikes. Stroll, Alonso, and Rivas. The only one's still out there. Rivas now. Oh, past our pit stop lap, by the way. I was pushing on, but didn't necessarily need to. Do we want to come in now? She's got enough life in that tire to go 1 more lap. Beach getting cut off there. Squeezed. Comes up the inside. Will she complete the overtake on her own? Still side by side. And she was the one ever so slightly ahead at the detection point. So Magnussen gets the DRS and pulls away quickly. So Beach is having a bad run here. She backs out of it and then backs out of it a second time to let Norris go by as Sainz heads down pit road. Another good stop for us though, 2.575, a hair better than what our average pit stop time is. And we're off to a good start when it comes to pit stops. This brings Rivas out a second and a half behind Beach, which is no surprise. It's no surprise that we are a little behind and getting blue flagged as we pit much later. But that was our stint on the softs, and it's now on the mediums, and it's now done. She's 2 sets of softs all the way to the finish, which is going to make her much faster. But the trick here is these blue flags and just how bad they're going to impact us being a lap down. Regardless, even if we can't catch back up to Magnussen or Zhou or Gasly, Leclerc's out of the race. So we've already succeeded in the 400k front, but beating a team is going to be one of the keys to keeping our job long term. 10th every day, they are satisfied with. They're disappointed. They're not too upset, but they're disappointed with an 11th place finish as a constructor. So all we need is one of our drivers to finish ahead of both drivers on a team. So beating Leclerc doesn't take care of it because Sainz is ahead of us. So we've got to beat Magnussen and Hulkenberg, or we've got to beat Zhou and Bottas, and that's always going to be the easiest one. That or Alpine. As we drive in open air, the blue flag really caught us out, and Beach ended up 3 seconds behind Magnussen as the blue flags worked out, and now that 3 seconds is turned into 5. So Magnussen is very much pulling away on the hard compound. It is a Haas. The Haas is generally faster than we are, so it might have been inevitable that they were going to pull away from us at some point. But Rivas has now caught up to Beach and overtaken Beach because soft compound, faster tire, faster pace. Rivas starting to take that advantage. Now they're going to yo-yo. Hopefully they'll crash into each other. They certainly do have enough racecraft about them to avoid that. But Verstappen pits here on lap 34, by the way. Norris, Sainz on top now with Verstappen, Perez chasing. Next round of pit stops begins. Sargent
now,
pits.
down to the
Zhou pits.
There's been a hold-up.
Zhou 9.5 seconds behind us. Had a pit stop issue. Let's give us a little chance. In fact, comes out and drops even more time. 11 seconds down for Zhou Guanyu. But let's see, where are we? About to get blue flagged. That helps it more as Hamilton's going to overtake him here. And he finally gets out of the way on the straight. Gets overtaken. 7 seconds behind. Rivas starting to fall off on pace. Falls behind Beach here once again. We're now 10 seconds behind Magnussen. And here comes Ocon into the pits. So Rivas pits. More of a standard stop, 2.776. About a tenth off of our expected. Beach pit road. Final stop of the day for us, if all goes well. 2.817. Slowest stop of the day, but no mistakes today. We'll take that, but we immediately come out to a blue flag with, is that a Williams going by? Are we that far down the grid? It looks like we are. So lap 48 of 58, I could push, but what are we to gain from that? Beach is still ahead of Rivas, but only by 3.5 seconds. We are 15 seconds behind Magnussen, who just overtook Guanyu Zhou. Zhou already out of DRS range, but at 15 seconds, I just don't see us chasing down Zhou anytime soon. We've got to gain more than a second a lap. We are gaining. Let's see what Beach can do on pushing tires. That's something we can definitely do, but we'll think about fuel if we start getting close. With blue flags, things could get interesting. We've got Norris, Ricciardo, and Albon in between us. We also have Verstappen in between us. So 4 cars could cost Zhou about 8 seconds. Safety car deployed. Let's see what Zhou does. If Zhou pits, we stay out. If Zhou doesn't pit, we'll look at pitting. Ricardo
We've
out
got
of the race.
Ricardo here in a spot of bother.
On his own. That's a destroyed gearbox. That's also dangerous as he comes back on the track. Love to see that the other drivers were able to avoid him and not drive straight into him, though,
And look at the
as their
team
wheels
there.
had to touch grass to avoid contact there. Oh, Joe. Okay, this is where it would be. Joe does not pit. Joe does not pit. So an extra pit stop. A little more wear and tear on our pit crew, but this is our chance. 2.7. Levi's coming in just behind. They use the same pit stall, 2.672. So that's the same pit crew having to do a double stop. But we're going to get that complete and come back out with fresh tires to take us to the end. Big problem here is there's only a few laps left of this race, but we are close behind Joe, so we still have a chance to maybe beat Joe head-to-head. But again, we're not going to beat a team this way, so it's really... And that's the lap cars overtake. Lap cars may overtake. Still not yet racing, though. And the safety car is about to end. We are somehow 16 seconds behind Joe because of the traffic and the gap between us. We're never going to catch him. I gave up a little track position, but there was like 3 cars between us and Joe, as it were. So I think we still would have been too far behind. Safety car comes to an end. We're going to save the fuel, the life of the engine. We're going to save the life of the battery and just push. It's the final lap of the race. We're going to ride on board with Norris to get a little front and rear view of this one as Verstappen leads the race and is coming around the final couple of corners now. Sainz comes on a little bit late, but a little bit too late. He'll take P3. Perez 4, Piastri 5, Russell 6, Alonso, Stroll, Hamilton, and Tsunoda rounding out the points. Everybody else had been a lap down, so there was only 10 cars left on the lead lap. And then down to 17th, had been a lap down, got unlapped, but never able to catch up. And then my group was 2 laps down. But with a 15 for Bottas, kicks Albert move back ahead of us. We're back down to 11th. But the main goal was to cash in. And we did. We got our 400K today. Big help. Tour Center upgrade complete. It did move us to 75K. So it was an increase of 25K. Next up is an increase of 12.5K for 100,000. Takes a little while to recover that one. But again, well worth it, especially with 0 monthly upkeep. Emma Beach's marketability has improved, our facility bonus has improved, and her team marketability has gone from a dreadful 170 to a 212. It's definitely improved. But will it help us this year, or will it just help us next year? Big question. It's March, we have a driver development update, and not a lot happened, but Rivas gets a +1 to cornering and defending, where a +1 to accuracy for Beach. I think that's because we have no facilities that we're hurting their development. So sponsor view, or sponsor plan review. We earned 1.4 million. We did not reach our target, but that was not something I could help. Right? We only had 6 chances, and there was just not enough positives. But our marketability is better now. So as we go into the next period, fingers crossed, we can get a little higher. I still don't think it's going to be high enough to meet whatever threshold they're looking for without some sort of changes. We had no mandatory activities in there, so we just earned 1.4 million, which offset the turn of the month. Just a couple days ago, it's 3rd of April now, so we're right back to 5.6 million. We're hanging in there for the time being. And so we go into a second sponsor plan period. We still have engagement. They've just increased the mark for the next period. So how is our engagement going to look through here? Can we do better than 1.4 million? I mean, there's supposed to be 5 million at stake. There are some higher end options, and we're going to really have to choose from them as we have that limit of 6 things we can do. So the activities we're going to do are going to leave us short once again on the engagement. We're looking at 1.4 million, so right where we were a month ago. However, there are some good signs here, sort of. One, race day appearance from Rivas is about the same, but Beach a little bit less. But we saw that her marketability improved. So marketability is a component of this. So as their marketability increases, we can increase our engagement. Also, a lot of these come down to your facility and what the level is. And I've made little bits of progress here and there in that one. And so ultimately, we are earning more in engagement this period than we did last period. We're pushing the bar a little bit further. And even though the earnings are the same, when we push the bar a little bit further next time, I think it's going to close in a little bit on that 6-week plan. And then you close in on that one, and maybe by the end of the year, especially with improvements in the marketability of our drivers primarily, we might just make the mark and get a larger share, maybe even the 5 million at some point. It's going to take something to get us going. And maybe the mandatory activity, the tour center, will that help push us a little further? I've just finished simulating Japan. Perez DNF'd, but so did Emma Beach. In Emma Beach's case, it was a mechanical failure. New feature of the game this year. We didn't get to encounter it firsthand, but she did DNF via mechanical failure. But she did ultimately finish 21st, so she will get the 200k bonus. Rivas will get the 200k bonus and actually had a decent race, finishing in 17th, albeit 2 laps down. Did we beat any teams? No. It was 11th on the day. Pierre Gasly was that next car ahead of us. If Rivas could have finished ahead of Gasly, it would have gone a long ways to making the board happy with our job so far, which they're not upset yet, but we haven't had a great season up to this point. But all in all, based on expectations, I'm pretty happy with where we're at so far. But we are definitely last. Verstappen has taken over the championship lead ahead of Sainz, who's now on 77 points, just 3 points separating them. We are ahead of Zhou Guanyu in the championship. He's only an 80 overall. Rivas is a 79, Beach is an 80, and we seem to be just a step ahead of him, even though their car is a step ahead of us. But Gasly at 84, Magnussen at 81, Ocon 84. They're not that far off. The gap's not that big. Bottas 85, Sargent a 78. Definitely giving us a chance, and there's a lot of drivers yet to score points. In fact, only 12 drivers have managed to crack the top 10 so far this season. So even though, yes, we're 11th, if there were some miracle and half the field DNF'd and we scored points, it would jump us right up to 7th in the standings. Fat chance of that happening, but, one could hope. In the fastest pit stop competition, well, we're not at the top, but we have scored points each and every race, usually just one. We've been coming in generally 10th, and in this competition, with those 4 points, we now have 7 on the season, ahead of Sauber's 2 and Haas, who have yet to score any points in the competition. So it's not all bad. It's not all bad. We're doing okay in this department. But this was another one of those days where it looks like we had a wing change for Beach. That's going to bring us down to our last 3 wings. It's time I do something about that one. And Rivas with a mistake, lowering the car. So pit stop mistakes seem to be plentiful with this team. With their ratings in the low 60s, it makes sense. I'm used to having them in the 80s or 90s to minimize mistakes, and even then, they still happen fairly often. I think we go into every single pit stop with about a 12% chance of a mistake is what we're at right now. All right, folks, well, that is going to do it for this episode. We are now 4 races into our maiden season, and all in all, things have gone pretty well so far for us. Got a long ways to go yet. The biggest thing, though, and of course we discovered that in this episode, the finances are right on the edge. And that is going to be a big concern on whether we can hang on and make it in this playthrough or not. That's going to do it for this episode. If you did not do so at the beginning of, please take a second, drop below, click that like button, leave a comment to help with the algorithm, and then I'll see you next time. Have a good one. Be safe out there. Bye for now.